Hello and welcome. My name is Frank Macaluso from Garageaholic, and this is my Border Collie. This is Bobby G. And this is my 30 by 50 garage. It's pretty cool, but how cool is it? What kind of stuff do I have inside this garage? Now, if you guys like this video, if you like the content of this video, what I'm doing, the projects that I have inside, and the tools that I use, please like, follow, and subscribe. So this is my 30 by 50, and it wasn't always a 30 by 50, and I'll explain that in a minute, but I've got a 4-bay garage with a main door for the entryway. I've got 8-foot by 9-foot doors here, and I've got an 8-foot by 8-foot door here. This is a footer concrete setup with engineered trusses on the roof. It's got a loft area for part storage, and it's got a completely open floor plan. So you guys want to take a look and see what's inside? Let's go. So this is my garage. This is where I do all my work, and I have not only my own personal projects, but I've got customer projects as well. This is a 30 by 50 setup. I've got a separate breaker right over here. This breaker is 80 amps, and it's got 3-phase AC, 208 volts, and that operates a lot of stuff. That operates my compressor and my 2 lifts. I've got my welders as well. None of these garage doors are are motorized. They're all manual. This garage has never always been a 30 by 50. It actually was a 30 by 40. Up until last year, I did an expansion on this garage where I expanded it an additional 10 feet. Now, not in the traditional sense. It's always been a 30 by 50, but it's been like a flag. So the front, this part on the other side of this wall actually was like an open gravel, like grassy area where the previous owners had a dog run. 40 stops right there, and it goes deep 30, but it does have a little bit of a jet out here for an open air area, which has previously been used by the previous owners for dogs, that went into this section right over here. This was part of the original garage. And what we're doing is we're going to actually be extending that concrete slab, adding a new slab, and having it poured all the way out to here. This whole area I originally had as part storage, and this over here was a wall that I had removed. This was a wall right here that I had removed, and this was all open space. So I had added a wall here, I added a wall here, and the reason I was able to remove those walls is because the engineered trusses span the entire 30 feet of the width of this garage. So the wall here was not load bearing, and the wall that was across here was not load bearing. So I ended up putting 2x6s and insulating. I installed the garage door myself, and I wired up electric so that I have lights going continuously into this section, just like I have it in the existing. So I wanted to improve the cohesiveness by making this not just an additional section of the garage, but wanted to make it feel like it was more like part of the garage. Part of the garage expansion initiative that I did last year included revising and revamping all of my workbenches. And I wanted to be really cool and creative with these benches, so I did this all myself. I literally took all of the wood that I've taken off of the walls and not only created these walls so I was able to reuse materials, but I created benches. And I've got 3 main benches I want to talk to you about. This here is the first one. Very simple. I've got a 4-drawer setup here. This is where I've got all of my paint stuff. I've got my sandpapers, I've got my brushes, everything is pretty well organized in terms of paints. I've got my power tools up here, my bench tools like my sanders. There's lights on all these benches. I like a very well lit garage. So I've got a strip here that's got all of my bench tools set up and hooked up to it. And I've got storage up above for parts if I need to do a project and I don't like storing parts on the ground, so I store them up on my shelves. Over here, all of my fluids, this is like my fluid center. I've got my oils, I've got my coolants, my lacquer thinners. I've got used oils that I've got over here that I need to get rid of. And I've got some blast media that I use for blasting. Over here. Let's walk past some other stuff here. Talk a little bit about my second bench, which is, as you can see, much different than the first one in terms of the architecture. This one here has a couple of different heights. It's a variable height. It's got a shelf underneath here where I store project parts. I got some S85 parts. I've got my jack stands under here with my jacks. I got a battery charger here, and I've got some other tools and random parts. One of the most important things that I do in this area, because of the height of this bench in particular, is I like to do my differential builds here. I've got everything methodically laid out. I've got all of my bins here for parts and tools and special things that I need. So I do all of my differential builds here. One of the other things that I also do is I have all of my power tools outlined here. This is a really good comment and suggestion by my good buddy that he said, hey, you got to get these things. You got to get these things you can buy these things on Amazon, link down in the description, and you can just screw them to a 2x4 and you use your Milwaukee tools where the battery would normally go, and just push it right in just like that. So that's really cool, and I got my batteries kind of outlined on there as well. So this side of the workbench kind of showcases all of my tools that I can easily grab in a heartbeat. If I need a battery, push it in, I'm good to go. And if not, when I'm done, put it back here, and I put it right back where it was. Very, very convenient way of organizing your power tools. Over here, I have a computer here that I use for parts lookup on real OEM. I look at my wiring diagrams, and it's also that right height that I don't need any type of chair or anything like that to do typing and mouse work. It's a good height for convenience. So that's my second workbench. And here we go with our third bench, which is completely different than the other two benches in terms of the architecture, in terms of my goal and what I wanted to do with this particular bench, this setup. This is one big cohesive bench, and I've got two outward shelves on either side. This shelf here is more for electronics components and battery storage, charging cables, things like that. I've got my rags down on this one here. All my rags are always down in one particular location. And on this side, all of my storage is dedicated to paints, like spray paints. I've got regular paints, I've got oils, brake fluid, things like that that I use quite frequently or more on the front. And as you can see, I've got a lot of electronic stuff here. I've got a couple of wire harnesses. I've got some bench tops here for just random cables and connectors and pins and harnesses. And this is where I do all of my electronics work. This is where I build harnesses. This is where I do Arduino work. I've got a little bench here. This little bench here has wires and soldering irons and clips, wire spools, and things like that for me to do specific types of wiring. And this is a very high bench, but the reason that this is high is that I can do the work that I need to do without having to sit down. Well, if I wanted to sit down, guess what? I've got a desk right here that I can do work. I've got a laptop with INPA and ISTA and all that type of BMW diagnostic type software on it. I've got individually sized drawers for parts and heat shrink and connectors and pins so that I can build whatever I need to and do all that work. I've got function generators and oscilloscopes. So there's a lot of potential with this area dedicated to electronics, which is great. But this area here is more than just an electronics area. It's more than just a separate garage area. And if this was a wall that I took down, you're probably asking, why didn't I take down the entire wall? Well, a major reason for that was because I actually have created a paint booth. There is a curtain here. that turns this entire section into a paint booth. So this is a custom sized curtain with air intake filters. It's got a sweep guard. It's got Velcro on the side so I can Velcro it to the edges. And if I wanted to do any type of paint work, it'll all be done there. And I'm talking about anything from spray painting a specific part to completely painting a car. To get the air out, got lights here for better lighting. To get the air out, there's a fan rig set up that you can see from the outside that shows it just basically pulls all the air from through those filters and out. So you can paint in here. It's a little bit on the tight side, and this is a relatively small car, but you can still get the job done, and you can do it in this garage. So it makes this a completely self-sufficient garage. So let's talk for just 2 minutes about the tools. I've got an 80-gallon compressor. It's a 5 horsepower, and I've got it rigged up to a 3/8-inch line system. It's a plug, quick connect system that I have one line going up and around, and it tees off right here. And one of them goes to my tire changer, and one of them goes to a filtered air going to painting things. So I got filtered air here, I've got the tire changer here. On this side here, it tees off and it goes to 2 other things. The first thing being my plasma cutter down there, which I can turn on and off with a T. And then I've also got my sand booth, my sandblasting. I can turn on and off with the turn of a switch. So I've got a pretty good air setup too that makes me, allows me to do a lot of things in this garage. I've also got a welding station here. This is a 3x4 welding table that allows me to build custom brackets that I sell on my website at garageaholic.build for customers to purchase. I've got a TIG 200 Lincoln welder, which welds steel and stainless steel and aluminum. I've got a MIG welder here for steel, and I've also got a MIG welder for aluminum. That's right. I also MIG weld aluminum. Sometimes it's a little bit easier to tack something if you're MIG welding the aluminum, and then you could TIG weld to fine tune it with the AC TIG weld feature. And then I also have a tire changer here. This is a tire changer and balancer. This is a Mayflower 980 setup. So it's got the assist arms here, which is really nice for the low profile tires. But this is a really good setup. It does tire mounting. It also does balancing over here. This will balance anything, most anything that we do here, which is great. So it'll balance the wheels as well. And of course, lest we forget, the most important tool in the shop are my lifts. I've got 2 lifts here. One's a clear floor lift and one is a base plate lift. Now this one here is a rotary 9,000-pound clear floor lift. It's clear floor meaning that there's no base plate going across the bottom, which is nice for rolling things around, doing transmission jobs and the like. This is a really nice lift and it's worked really well. It's perfect for the 12-foot ceilings that I have. Unfortunately, I didn't have that luxury on this second lift. And this lift here is a base plate 9,000-pound lift. Slightly different design, but it's meant for lower ceilings. And this is a 10-foot ledge here. In fact, the rest of the garage is 10 feet ceilings. So you can see I've got a base plate here, but it allows me the same amount of latitude to work on 2 cars at the same time without having to clear floor. And then finally, the toolboxes. I've got a lot of toolboxes and I've got a lot of drawers, but what are they all for? This is my toolbox that has tools. Most of the tools that I work with, however, are in this guy right here. This is where most of my tools are that I use frequently. I take this toolbox and I roll it over from car to car as I'm working on a particular project. So I've got all my tools essentially lined out. I got all my little electronics tools here, and I've got wrenches and all that allows me to do most of what I need to do while I'm at the location. Here has more specific tools that I don't use quite as often, but I still use them, and all my tools are there. This here is a toolbox that I use just for BMW clips and trim and just random pieces when I'm doing prototyping and things like that. That is all going to be located in those drawers there. Here, this toolbox here is for a slightly different subset of materials. This one here has items like steel, aluminum. It has fasteners, hardware, things that you generally would use for most projects. Not to mention, this set of drawers here is all of my consumables, all my drill bits, all of my saw blades, all of my Sawzall stuff. I've got hole saws, and that's all located in that little drawer set there. So we live in upstate New York, and in upstate New York in the winter it gets really, really cold. So this garage is heated. As you can see up here, there's some ducts that mate to a 99,000 BTU propane heater. This is a propane setup, and it really keeps this place nice and toasty, which is kind of around 60 to 62 degrees is where I like to keep it in the winter. And in the summer, I don't have AC. So I just kind of deal with it and leave the garage doors closed because the sun does seem to bake it in. So what good is a garage like this if I didn't have projects? And as you can see, I've got 3 right now. And if you wanted to check out what those projects are, please, link in the description. I've got links to the playlists that defined these projects. But that's about it for me, guys. Thanks a lot for watching. My name is Frank Macaluso from Garageaholic. And if you're interested in more videos like this, please subscribe, comment, and like. I'm also on Instagram and Facebook at Garageaholic. Thanks a lot, guys, for watching. Take it easy.